let's talk about Redfall. We didn't actually get to discuss this last week due to no podcast. We briefly touched on it while playing Age of Wonders. This game was an absolute disaster. Phil Spencer had an interview after this game came out, and he said a lot of things that I think we should at least try and touch on, that I recall.
It was a good interview.
It was a good interview. He said a lot of interesting things. Number one, he said this was a complete mess up, and they're taking responsibility for that, which is true. This is the biggest botch job I think I've seen on a game in a while, considering how much promotion they did for this before him. He said, to highlight one thing that I remember to start, and you can add on to this, of course. He said, they're not in the business anymore of doing console wars. They failed miserably during the Xbox One era, and it set them back completely to the point where they're just no longer competing in console wars.
Xbox 360 was, I would probably well, I guess if you count the Wii was probably
the Wii was the crown jewel there. That was the crown jewel.
360, but the 360 destroyed the PS3 in the I guess two generations ago now. But last generation, he was like, which was the worst generation to lose because everything basically went digital. Like, the physical game sales went down the tubes for the most part.
Right.
And the digital stores became super popular in the last 10 years.
Correct.
Basically, and Xbox One lost that generation hard.
Badly.
PS4 and Switch completely blew them out of the water. Like, not even close.
The PS4 completely blew him out of the water, and he acknowledged that. He's like, this is the worst gen to lose. We're just no longer a consideration, really, when it comes to consoles at this point.
Yeah.
I think he basically was acknowledging that, look, when we promote a game, we're not trying to sell the console, necessarily.
Yeah, they're not trying to sell Xboxes.
Which doesn't make a ton of sense to me, though. Because if you're gonna say that, I understand the point of having the console. It's like an avenue for those that can't afford a PC. That makes sense to me, right? It's like a low-cost version of a PC at this point, the Xbox Series X and S. Why wouldn't you be promoting your games for that system, though? It's like you have Redfall, for example. The game sucks, okay? Whatever. But at 30 FPS for console on release, your system just does so much better than that. So I think he's trying to do, oh god, I don't know what to even call it. There's like this, he's using this like defensive argument that seems there's like a little bit of childishness to it at times, where he's like, oh well, we're not competing. We don't compete in console. And it's like, yeah, I guess you don't, but don't you want to put your best foot forward for all your consoles regardless? Like, you're trying to sell them. Why would you even make the hardware if you don't want to sell it? I'm a little bit confused. His statement doesn't make a ton of sense to me. It's very much like a PR statement with me kind of scratching my head on the business side and going like, but why would you not put your best foot forward for every one of your console games that's first party? Third party games, you don't control that necessarily to a certain extent. Fine. Redfall is a first party game for them. Why wouldn't you have it 60 FPS day one? Regardless of if the game sucks. It sucks. It should be 60 FPS day one. There should be no first party exclusives that don't, if it doesn't say 60 FPS or better, I don't understand why you even promote it or put it out there. I don't get it.
Like, the game, on the game box, it had printed, like, when they had the boxes made, which I'm sure was sometime like months ago probably.
Right.
It has like 60 FPS on it, and they had to put stickers on the outside of the box that says 60 FPS not available at launch because they don't want to get sued, obviously. That's false advertising.
Correct. Correct. I don't get it. I don't know. Phil's statement to me, I think a lot of what he said makes sense and rings true. That part of the statement though, I don't like it. I'm like, that doesn't sound very good when I hear it. Because
I got what he was saying. He was basically saying that, like, Xbox can't really compete with Switch and PlayStation.
Right.
they still want to have a console, but they're not really trying to quote unquote win the console, where they're kind of focused on doing their own thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There were some parts of his argument that I bought, and others where he felt a little. It felt a little too defensive.
It was very defensive.
Like, they had this one part of the interview where he's like, well, there's some things that, like, delaying a game just won't help with if you're not, like, meeting the vision, or the vision isn't very good. But, like, 60 FPS on console, you could have delayed the game. You would have got that. You would have got that. The game has a shit ton of bugs, and the AI is absolutely horrible. You could delay it and fix that. Like, you could fix those things. Like, yeah, maybe the game won't be great, but maybe their Metascore is horrible. In the high, like, when it came out, it was in the low 60s. It was like 62, 61, but it's kept going down and down and down, and like, I don't think many more reviews are probably coming in anymore, but it's 58 right now. 58. That is abysmal.
It's a disaster. And like, he acknowledged it, but at the same time, this just comes back to his statement being like, sometimes delays don't fix it. Yeah, but a delay would have fixed this.
But you can fix bug. Like, yeah,
you can fix issues.
Maybe the game as a whole still wouldn't have been great, but you wouldn't have a 58. You would have like maybe a high 60s or a low 70s, which is what they were. What it seems like when they talked in the interview, they do like, internal testing, and they do mock reviews, and like, excuse me.
Yep.
It seems like they were projecting in the low 70s, which like isn't great, but it's fine. Like, that's a decent serviceable
It's okay.
game.
It's okay, but that they were projecting 70. That's bad. Like, that's bad. Like, again, I think to some extent, we'll talk about Nintendo at some point. The one thing that Nintendo does a good job with their first parties, besides Pokemon recently, those things cook for a while for a reason. They slow cook. They slow cook for a while for a reason.
And they don't release it until they know it's ready.
Exactly.
They don't, especially the big ones like Zelda. Zelda, they delayed like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, it's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready.
It was in the cooker for a long time. They spent, which means they spent quite a bit of money on it because it's in the cooker for a while. But when it comes out, like, even like Mario, Zelda, these first party titles from Nintendo, they don't review poorly for a reason.
They don't miss. They really don't miss.
They don't really miss. Like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet technically missed, but from the gameplay's perspective, it was good. But like, on a technical side, it missed. Like Fire Emblem, that was a hit. That hit.
It reviewed well.
Yeah, it reviewed well.
Liked it. We have
opinions, but it reviewed well. This Zelda.
I enjoyed the game. I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah,
but it has issues.
They don't miss, really. Like,
they really don't miss. Same with Sony. Sony, their first party, they don't miss. They release a blockbuster every single time.
That's true. There's a few that fall through the cracks. A certain one fell through the cracks recently.
Days Gone.
Well, Forspoken, I was gonna say too. Forspoken was a bad one. But like, okay, Forspoken.
That was not a Sony exclusive though.
It wasn't a Sony exclusive, no, but it was a first party. It was released. Sorry, it was released exclusively to the Sony console with a PC release.
With PC, yeah. That was a Square problem.
That was a Square problem, yeah. But Sony generally also does the same thing. They'll give things time to cook, and they'll focus the resources to it, so that when it releases, it is a good game or it's a great game. That's like the focus. Microsoft has taken this like different approach, which is like, like Redfall, somebody said, this is gonna stink. This is gonna be like either okay or worse, whatever. Release it. Which I'm kind of like, that's where I scratch my head. Where I'm like, okay, but this is your first party release. You just bought Bethesda. This is like, this is supposed to work to at least a 75 or better. If it's below 75 to me, like you're really screwed up. I don't know how long this was in the cooker either. This to me feels like somebody developed it in about 2 years. It feels like it was done in 2 years.
I don't think so, because again, part of that interview, Phil said that like this game, it sounds like they didn't really give the team much support on this game other than obviously financially, like they gave them money and stuff because
Right.
they own them. But part of the interview, Phil was like, yeah, that this game was already like, you know, he didn't say far along, but it was like they were definitely past pre-production. They were already making the game. They had the idea, and like it was on its way to be made. He was like, we kind of caught this one a little too far in development, so they just kind of let them do their thing, and they didn't learn until like way too late that they were having these technical issues, and yeah, they like Xbox or Microsoft was way too hands off with this one, and that team needed help with this game.
That team needed help.
They trusted. Obviously, the team has a pretty good track record, but they trusted the team a little bit too much and just let them do their own thing, and they did not come through on this one.
I can get not micromanaging too much, but your first party titles, you got to micromanage a little bit. You do have to do it a little bit.
If you're gonna promote it as this, I don't understand why you would promote. And this game they announced at an E3 probably like 2 years ago or something like that. So this has been announced as a big first party title for a couple of years now. I don't know why you wouldn't check in on them and be like, all right, how's everything going?
Give us a demo. Okay? Give us a play demo.
Yeah, let us play, let us get a playable build and see how we're doing. And it just sounded like they just let them do their own thing. And yeah, again, the part of the argument where he's like, oh yeah, delay wouldn't have really helped this game, like that to me was just complete BS.
I was like, no, it would have.
There's lots of bugs. The AI is just absolute dog water.
It's terrible.
Horrible.
It's terrible.
And yeah, this game could have used another 6 months to a year in the oven, I think, and would have been, maybe it wouldn't have been amazing, but I think they would have hit at least their like mid-70s target,
which is fine
for reviews.
That's okay. Like it's fine as long as if it's a 75 and it's enjoyable, like I don't mind. But this like it's a disaster. Starfield's kind of has to hit. I think if Starfield fails to get over a 75,
if Starfield flops, it's gonna be rough.
I do want to say this very boldly. I think somebody at Microsoft's gonna double check Phil if Starfield doesn't hit, and they're gonna go, Phil, we need to sit down. Are you sure you're the right person? Halo was a hit for about
2 months,
2 to 3 months, and it's not a talking point anymore. Nobody's talking about it. Your Redfall was a big miss. Redfall's a big miss. What else came out past Halo that was a first party Xbox? Age of Empires was actually a good release for them.
Last year was super dry for them, actually. Yeah. They had almost nothing released last year.
Like this was a huge miss. If Starfield misses, I think somebody's going to check Phil.
Yeah.
I think somebody's going to check Phil and be like, okay, Phil, you the right person? Do we need to get somebody else to help you? Do we need to just get somebody else?
They've over the past 5 years or so, we've had all these stories about Microsoft buying all these big name studios, and we really haven't seen much from any of those yet. I would hope a bunch of those studios have games coming pretty soon,
right?
And again, Phil said part of that interview that they're excited for this year's like COVID set them back a little bit, and they're excited for this year's presentation that they announced right after Redfall that's going to be in June, because they have a lot of stuff to show.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Let's jump to that. So May 3rd, which to be clear was a day after Redfall released, they announced Xbox Game Showcase and Starfield Direct double feature. Okay, this was tactical. Phil told marketing, we need to get the eyes off Redfall. What can we do? Well, sir, we have an event next month we could highlight right now. They got it through legal fast, and they immediately dropped this. This was tactical. Somebody said we got it. They were probably thinking maybe they were going to let Redfall have like a week or two in the spotlight. No. They did this on purpose. There's no way they dropped this like pretty much a day right after, exactly day, 6 a.m. Somebody saw Redfall was reviewing poorly.
Was a disaster. They saw Redfall was a disaster.
Everybody went hands on and said, okay, we got to promote this now, send it to legal. Legal has to approve it. Get it approved to everybody. get this shipped out the next morning. This was a tactic because they want people talking about something else. So I'm happy to see something that isn't related to Redfield, Starfield Direct. They got a really, I think during this showcase they should acknowledge Redfield was not it. I think they
won't talk about
it. They won't talk about it. It would be interesting if they did. I would actually be very happy if they acknowledged it, like, hey, we messed up. We're sorry. Whoops. Our bad.
That's one thing also, by the way, the developer and Microsoft, I think neither of them, Arcane Austin or Microsoft, I don't think they ever put out an official statement that was like, yes, we're sorry that Redfall sucks. Basically, they never said anything. Usually when a game comes out and it sucks, and they're like, usually you get a statement that's like, all right, we're so sorry about this.
Sorry.
We're working on it. We'll fix it.
Usually get that, which...
We got nothing.
Yeah, I think they're... I don't know how much content was planned for after Redfall release. You can bet your ass Microsoft took a look at that and said, how can we downscale? How can we can we take away some of the promised things that we did? Anything? We're not doing that. Just fix the game as much as you can and we're done in like 6 months. I don't know how much you can, like, what can you realistically fix? I don't know. I have another side note. I told you about this before. Maybe they will fix it in like a year or something like that, or like 12 months down the road. Maybe they'll actually work on it for the next 12 months. Saints Row, the newest Saints Row actually got a patch too. A couple days ago. They're still working on that game. Apparently like Gearbox is helping now and they're still fixing that game up. I'm shocked. I told you before I was shocked. I'm a little surprised, but I'm also kind of like, okay, like sure, if you want to commit to working on it and fixing it up. There was apparently like a DLC released and an overhaul to a lot of things. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's not changing my mind about the game. I'm just like, okay, sure, why not?
Like, the comeback stories are like, they're pretty uncommon, but they do happen. We know about No Man's Sky. That game released horribly, and then they overhauled it, and people actually like it now. FF14, Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk is coming back.
Cyberpunk is good now. It took them a couple of years to actually make it good.
Yeah.
I think probably the last gen console versions were always crap. I'm not sure they ever fixed those.
I think they probably just abandoned.
We talked about it. They should not have released the last gen console versions. Those were a disaster.
Rainbow Six Siege also did that too. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, you've got 4 or 5 examples of like pretty big games that flopped on launch and came back. So it happens. It's not that common, but usually first impressions hurt quite a lot.
They do.
And, we'll see if they're committed to Redfall and want to see if they can fix it, but we'll see.
I don't see it.
Maybe I'll eat my words later, but I'm not seeing this one.
I'm not seeing it. No. I think this is so bad. I think they're going to be like, all right, we got to move on.
Because even people who played it and are dealing with the bugs and stuff are saying like, yeah, it's okay. Like the game is like, it's okay. The gunplay is fine. The characters are fine. But no one's saying is like, well, under all the bugs and the crappy design decisions and the empty open world, there's a great game in there somewhere. I haven't heard anyone say that. Heard most people say like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay, but it's kind of bland. Kind of generic.
I saw one stream that was like, I kind of like this game. And I don't know. Sometimes there are certain streams where they're like, I kind of like this game. And my first thought is, you just want to have a different opinion to have a different opinion, huh? Sometimes you just think about that.
I mean,
I get there's a game out there for everybody.
Yeah, there is. But people have different tastes. Despite the glowing reviews, not everybody likes Tears of the Kingdom. I saw a tweet from Co Carnage yesterday who said that he played it and he wasn't really enjoying himself, so he played like 1 or 2 sessions and is just like, yeah, I don't want to play this anymore. And apparently he was getting a lot of hate on the channel for it.
Of course he's gonna get hate for that.
Not enjoying it. And he's like, yeah, I'm taking down the YouTube videos and I'm not talking about it anymore. I'm done. Like we're not
of course you're gonna get hate. It's like you're, I hate to say it, this is such a weird, it's like you slapped a baby in public.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" It's like it's not that though, guys.
He doesn't like Zelda. Oh my god!
Like he may just not like it. It's okay. Like it's okay. It's really not a big deal.
We talked about it. I feel that like I didn't like Breath of the Wild that much. I know most people love it, but not every game is for everybody. I just didn't like it that much.
It just is what it is.
I'm not gonna tell you it's bad, but for me it was kind of.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was like there were some things that were good about it, and the bosses sucked, and the dungeons were not great.
Sucked,
and I was like really
sucked.
I was really unimpressed with the ending. I was like, this is a really bad ending. I do not like this. I feel bad for Ko. He, you know, I feel bad that he's like, okay, like I have to deal with this weird Zelda fandom now.
And
I feel bad.
Apparently, he didn't love Breath either. Like he tried Tears just to like see if it would change his mind, and it didn't. He was like, yeah, it's pretty similar to Breath of the Wild, and it's not going to change my mind. I just don't love it.
Yeah, I feel bad for him just because like when you have a following and you say like I just it's not for me, and it's something that like everyone's like jizzing their pants over. It's like of course they're gonna go crazy for you and be like, hey, you just don't get it. It's like, no, I got it. It's just not for me. It's okay.
Like it's fine.
You can live your life too. It's okay. Like I just don't
look. I love, you know, I love lots of JRPGs. I love Trails, and I think the game has amazing character story and world building. But I can admit that the game is not for everybody.
Yeah,
it's long and it's slow, and there's like 10 games to play. It's difficult to get into. Things that I love and think are incredible, they're just not for everybody. And I know that's a little bit of a niche example when you have things like Tears of the Kingdom and Elden Ring, which have like 96 on Metacritic. But I think to me, a 96 or like a high 90s on Metacritic is like, to me it's even a little bit disingenuous, because like with Elden Ring especially, because like those games are not for everybody. If a game has a 96 on Metacritic, that's saying basically anybody should love this, and that's just not true. It's just not.
It's just not. It's like that's more like if you. For me, it's like, I guess like it's hard to say like because you'd think like, oh, 96 must be for everybody, but it isn't always. It isn't always. And like like I said, I just feel bad for Ko. Like I get it. I feel bad for Ko, like because it's just like, look, like we have games that people absolutely love, and like we're just like, I'm kind of lukewarm on this. Yeah. And they're like, well, you didn't get it. It's like, well, I think I did get it, actually. I just don't love it the same way you do, and that's
exactly.
Fine.
And that's pretty much exactly what he said. He's like, I don't think it's a bad game. Like, I think it's fine, but I just don't like it that much. I don't really want to play through this. Like, I played it a couple times. I think it's meh, and let's move on. I don't care.
Yeah, like, but that's the problem. Is like everybody wants to shit on the bad games, like Redfall. Like we want to shit on Redfall. That's hilarious. Like it looks horrible when you watch it. It's like easy to shit on. But like when somebody's like, I think this good, like amazing game is, I'm pretty lukewarm on it personally. Then it's like, oh, it's not the game, it's you. You're the problem. And it's like, well, how about it's just nobody's problem? It's just like he says it's not for him. He's just telling you to let you know, don't be disappointed. I'm not going to be playing this anymore. Here's why. You know, if that's a problem for you, you know, please understand. I'm going to be playing other games now. That's what he's trying to say. He's just trying to let people know that he's going to be playing other games, and that's why he's not playing Zelda right now. But instead, everybody's having a fucking heart attack, and it is like, oh, well, he's not going to play Zelda. It's like, okay, well, okay, like there's other Zelda people. Go watch them. It's not a big deal. Ko probably doesn't care.
Pick your favorite streamer right now, or your second favorite streamer. They're probably
playing it. So go watch them. Just leave them alone. Like if you know, it's fine. It's not a big deal.